Yo, what's up? It's the Prodigy, man. So, real quick, we are about to do a quick Smackdown review. Just saw it. So, if I miss out on something, then my bad. I'm going to recall it from my memory. I know, like, usually I would have it pulled up so I could talk about it. But we will work with what we got for now. So, first thing is, I know the first segment I know opened up with Roman and Usos having a promo with Paul Heyman. It was basically like nothing really to get deep into. They were basically talking about how the Usos will not be part of the bloodline, or they can't be part of the bloodline if they don't take all the gold because Roman has all the gold. So they were saying basically that the Usos needed to get the win, and just talking about how Roman's better and he's on top and he's better than all of these other people and all the other stars that's come before him. Basically just to heal up his promo, give him that confidence and all that. And then we had Sami Zayn versus Nakamura. Of course, pretty good match. It's those who those if you know who those two are, that the chemistry has to be there at that point based off how many times they face. There's no way they don't have gotten used to each other in the ring or what they want to do. Pretty good match. Came by way of Shinsuke Nakamura winning with his finisher King Shasa. So yep, that's how that match ended. I don't know. I feel like if they were to turn this into a feud, don't do a match so quickly, because I feel like something like this could have, which has before, something like this could have easily turned into a feud, but they just keep having to perform on SmackDown. And I think it's really just their way of having a match on SmackDown. It's like, okay, if there's two people we can trust to go out there to the ring and just to have, because, obviously you have a wrestling show, so you're going to have wrestling on there. So it's like, they're probably in their minds thinking, well, we don't have time to work with people who have never worked with each other in the ring before. So it's like, to them, it's like, it's not the time to do that. So they go on people they rely on that they already know can go in the ring. But yeah, those two had a match. Then I know there was Gunther versus Drew Gulak. Of course, Gunther won that one by way of the chops, the power bomb. He won that way. Ricochet came out. Pretty sure they're foreshadowing a IC championship match, which is fine with me. Most likely, Ricochet is not winning that. Obviously, I don't even know the last time he's defended his title. So yeah, I could literally go a whole hour just talking about how they need to treat the mid card division with some respect, because it's a lot. You have a decent, even though they've released so many people, they have a decent enough singles wrestlers to create a line of challengers for the IC champion. So I don't know. Just the mid card belts in general, I just feel like haven't gotten any respect for a long time. But the next thing that happened was, I know there was Shotzi versus Raquel. Obviously, it's just Raquel being dominant. She pins her. That's what happens with that match. Let me think if there was anything before I get to the main event. I was trying to see if there was anything else that happened. Your women's champion didn't even show up on SmackDown, by the way. That's crazy. If there's anything else. All right, if I missed something, then you know what happens. But main event is what I really wanted to talk about. That's what the extension of this video is going to be. So it was obviously the title unification match between the Usos, RK Bro. I seriously want RK Bro to be over, to be completely honest with you. I just don't feel like it's helped the Riddle. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, Randy's putting over Riddle. But I'm like, is it putting someone over if the crowd is only really cheering them because they're associated with Randy? Or is it putting them over if even without Randy Orton, they're cheering for Riddle and they want to see him specifically? But a lot of times they're cheering for Orton to come out there, and they're cheering for Orton. They're excited when he gets tagged in a tag match. So I'm like, is it really doing anything for Riddle? And plus, the tag team's just annoying to me. Orton's much better off. That's a bad guy. Most of his career, he was a bad guy. So that's why it was weird on Raw when they had that 20th anniversary segment, because I'm like, yeah, cool, give Orton his respect. Unfortunately, he was never like the top guy. Like, he was always one of them, but he was never like the top guy in the business, like a Stone Cold, like a Rock, like a Hulk Hogan, like a John Cena. He was like never like the main guy. He was one of the guys, or he was one of the main. He was always the bad guy to who they wanted to be as the guy. Uh, or like throughout his career, I feel like that's what he's been. It just didn't. It never felt like, oh, Orton's the face of the company. Like it just that's never. He was always like, okay, he's one of the top stars, but is he the face of the company? And I just personally, I just don't. I mean, I think he's a top star, but I just, and that's not to say he's not that type of material. It's just saying I just feel like the company never made him like the main guy. I just feel like he was always one of them. But I'm actually readjust this because I just found a better place to put it. Yeah. So the main event, decent match. They obviously had a much better match at Survivor Series. Um, so they couldn't, because at first we were supposed to already have their tag team unification match at Backlash. For no reason and no reason at all, they decided to make it a 6-man tag match, which in my last video I talked about how I like that shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have moved that match. And then people were making it like, oh well, Fox just doesn't want the they want their brands and their belts to be kept separate, but it's like we still ended up having the unification match. That still has been the big story. So it was just a matter of Vince just wanting to move stuff around for absolutely no reason and holding off on the match because he needs something. Yeah, because he never wants to think longevity. He's always got to think right in the moment. He's not thinking of like, he's not already planning stuff out for the future. He's doing everything as he goes along. So this RK Bro versus Usos thing is supposed to have been done already. It's supposed to have already been done. I could have easily thought of a storyline you could have done with that if they would have already had the match at Backlash. I personally would have had Usos beat them at Backlash for the championships, have Orton turn on Riddle because he's so frustrated that they couldn't beat them. Even though they beat him the first time, they couldn't beat him when it mattered, which was taking all the gold. They couldn't do it. So I would have had him take his anger out on him, RKO. And then you could have set up Riddle versus Randy at Hell in a Cell, which could have been a Hell in a Cell match. It could have been inside Hell in a Cell. They could have done that, but they decided to not put the belt on them. They not to put the belt on the Usos at that time at Backlash. So they could have easily had an in-depth feud, Randy and Riddle at Hell in a Cell, but they didn't do it. And that also reminds me, like, Cody versus Seth Rollins, right? Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins is, like, they've had great matches. Their last 2 matches have been phenomenal, but it's just, to me, when I think Hell in a Cell, I'm thinking, like, it's getting personal, it's getting serious. You guys are attacking each other week after week, and it's just, you guys have shown that you have no control, and it's, like, to the point where you're willing to do anything to like hurt the other person or whatever. So you put them in a cell so that they can inflict all that damage on each other, and they take the chaos and put it all in a cage. So that's what I think about when I think Hell in a Cell. But they're putting them in Hell in a Cell. I personally wish the feud got deeper. It's okay. The feud's not. I mean, they've been having great matches, but I feel like the feud that they've been having is like, okay, there's some bright spots, but I don't think they've just been like captivating me in a way where like, oh, I have to see them have a match again. No, I'm like, okay, I'm tuning in because I like both superstars, and I'm like, I'm gonna tune in because they have great matches, but it's not like a captivating to me though. I'm like, I need to see it. But nah, all right, so to get back to main event, so it ended with Roman interfering. Of course, Riddle had delivered a flying knee to Roman Reigns the week prior, so I'm pretty sure that was them, which most of us knew. That was them setting up like, okay, Roman's going to interfere and cost Riddle the opportunity for him to win the tag team championships for his team because he hit him last week. So that kind of foreshadowed like, oh, well, now, Roman's going to get involved. Like, he's not going to just see you on his show, Smackdown, you're not going to see him on his show and then expect to just be able to hit him and then, run off. Like, he's not going to forget that. So he interferes in the match. Usos win. I think Jay delivered a splash and the Usos end up winning. The match was okay. I was like, okay, cool. The Usos won. That's who I wanted to win. I don't need to see RK Bro anymore. I personally thought they could have done a lot with this finish. I actually thought that I actually thought because I feel like they could have got really creative with this. I honestly thought they were because Orton's now gone back to bald Randy, and if you know anything about bald Randy Orton, dude is a menace. So he went back to that style, and I'm like, oh, even though it's just something as simple as facial hair and hair, it's like I'm just like, oh man, that's nice if they uh have him turn on Riddle during the match and then have Usos take the win because that way they get all the gold and then they start a feud with Riddle and Randy. Now, unfortunately, they could have done this at Backlash, but unfortunately, even if they would have gone with that finish and kind of develop a feud between Randy Orton and Riddle, there's only like one more show for each show, like Raw and SmackDown until the Hell in a Cell pay per view. So you couldn't even. That's why I wanted them to turn before because I'm like, I just realized you could have done all this stuff that I'm thinking about. You could have done this and led up to them having a Hell in a Cell match, and it could have been cool. But yeah, it didn't happen. And a lot of people are saying like they want to swerve, they don't want something predictable Riddle should do. And I'm like, Riddle should be the one to turn heel. I'm like, Riddle can barely talk on the mic, and no disrespect, I love his in ring work. I feel like he's done well, and I think that he has a lot of cool matches. Um, Love his in ring style, but it's just like if I'm looking at you as a character, I'm not seeing a whole bunch. If I'm looking at you as a wrestler, I'm like, oh yeah, cool. But it's like if he can barely talk on the mic as a good guy, as someone that the crowds like, the kids are a fan of, then I'm like, what makes you think he's going to be able to carry himself for months as a heel? It's just you leave. It's just some things you leave up to the professionals, and Randy is a professional on being a heel. So, predictable is not always bad. Like people said, Roman interfering was predictable. So just because you kind of saw it coming or it was predictable or whatever, like that's bad all the time. I just don't get people who have that mindset that just because it's predictable now it's bad. I'm like, predictable would mean like multiple rematches, like to the point where like, oh, they're gonna have this match next week. That's bad predictable. But when it's predictable in terms of like, okay, Roman interferes and this could cause a further program between it could cause dissension between RK Bro. So it's like you can go somewhere with this. It's like that the finish was predictable, but the storyline can be taken anywhere from here. So that's why I don't mind it being predictable or whatever. But yeah, the match ended. The Usos won. The Bloodline attacked them. Roman took. They delivered super kicks. The Orton took out Riddle. Roman guillotine choke on Randy. They hit him with steel steps. They just caused carnage, took him out, and if you saw the camera angle, there were kids that were like confused. Some adults were confused, and there were kids crying, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I've seen good heel work like that in a while, to the point where you actually see kids that are getting upset and crying because the good guys didn't win. And I'm like, when you are hitting that type of like, that's what wrestling is all about, like capturing emotion, right? And when you see kids that are legitimately crying over the fact that their team didn't win, you know you're doing. I know it sounds evil, but that means you're doing a great job. Because I was excited. I was like, I thought it was funny, but like obviously to kids, it's like they don't think of wrestling like that. So they're getting upset that their team didn't win, and that's good. I mean, nothing wrong with that. You have a child mentality, right? So you're gonna have that emotional connection, all that stuff, because you don't know wrestling like that. So I'm like, that was freaking awesome to me. And I like how the show ended because I like to end a show with a cliffhanger, right? Because that's how you get invested in movies and TV shows, right? When it ends on a cliffhanger, meaning like it leaves you questioning what happens next. Like, oh wait, what happens to this guy? Wait, did he end up dying? Wait, who was the person that attacked him? Like, and like right before they reveal or something, it's like, oh wait, who was it? Like, it has to leave you asking questions to the point where you feel like you have to tune into the next episode or next movie series or whatever it is. It has to leave you wanting to see it next week. That's how you get. When you have a captivating story, that's how you get people who don't watch the show or don't watch a movie. That's how you get them to watch a movie. When you give them a story to get invested in, and then you leave them with a cliffhanger like, oh, what's going to happen in the next movie or the next episode? So it ended off with a cliffhanger because it's like, okay, what does the Bloodline do now? They have all the gold. What do they do after this? How does RK Bro respond? Drew McIntyre's coming next week, so what does that mean for Roman? Like, what have like? There you go. When you are left with multiple questions of what they're gonna do now, then you've done right. So I just don't understand why they don't do this more often, like in shows with you questioning what's gonna happen next, because that's how you make people. Even in the old days of wrestling and WWF, like that's how you got people to want to see what happens next week and why it had 7 million viewership. Of course, it won't get like that again. I mean, that's because of one. It's just the company just doesn't care enough to give you captivating stories and over the top, larger than life superstars anymore. It's that, and then it's also, of course, then after that, you got to factor in, yeah, people don't really watch it, and people have phones and all this stuff, so you can factor that in too. But yeah, for the most part, I just love the fact that the show was, it was the same old SmackDown. It wasn't nothing special until after the main event. That's when I was like, okay, now we have something here. So that's all I had to say about SmackDown. That was just a quick review. Please like, comment, share your thoughts on how you felt about it. And if you're not a fan, maybe you just got some intel just now and you want to check it out. But I appreciate anyone who stuck around this long to see this part of the video. I love and appreciate you guys. Of course, we are on the road to the top. We are starting from the bottom, of course, in terms of just, no subscribers. I don't have 0 subscribers, but in terms of just starting at that low point, that's completely fine, man. We want to do this. I'm going to make this my mission to make this a job. I'm going to start getting equipment, and we will see more top quality videos and more entertaining content. But this is just a category of mine that I'm going to do. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you were interested. And if you want to rock with me any longer, man, stick around and you'll see more. Love you guys. Peace.